It's a classic.
Yeah.
Does it ever get old
I
to
mean,
you?
I listen to the soundtrack a lot. Like the soundtrack was in my life way longer before the movie even was.
It's a great soundtrack. Irene Cara, best of even. It's all good.
Yeah.
Listen, there's
She's got
nothing
great
wrong.
that window of Irene Cara movie songs. Same thing. Fame. Fame is another one of those things that, like, as an actor coming in, being like, it's kind of this thing you think about that kind of gets you pumped up about, you know, an audition or something. Just kind of like to keep plugging through the hustle of trying to be an actor.
It's kind of like they have that like Rocky feel, like they start on one,
Totally does.
right?
Totally does. Yeah. Yeah. That's another one I listen to. A lot of the Rockies. The Rocky IV soundtrack has a lot of like Burning Heart and yeah.
Listen, it's all about the 80s music.
Yeah, it's amazing how many songs I'd suggest. I'd be like, oh, that's from a movie too, isn't it? Like so many songs that I was like throwing out there as ideas we're like, oh, I feel like all my songs are from movies. We gotta pick and choose and do, because I could have done a whole 80s movies set basically. Like when there was when we were like picking songs for the duel, we had to have a song ready for the duel. And I was like, Power of Love.
Really? You were going to do The Power of Love?
That's what I wanted.
I love it. I love it. That would have been good. Does it ever get old for you? You know, like Ken Jeong stands up and he's like, oh my God, dude, I'm such a huge Lost fan. Like, does it ever get old just like the power that that show has? And did you know, I know you got cast from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, did you know, I know we say like, when you see the clues, it's obvious it was you, could you tell this could be the one that's like lightning in a bottle and going to be my breakout role?
Lost? No idea. We knew that first summer when we're shooting episodes and we haven't aired yet, we knew we were doing something different. Like we had like an episode that was half in Korean with subtitles. And we're like, they're not doing this on TV right now. We know what we're doing is different than what people are seeing on TV. And it was just like, maybe they like it. And then we started kind of great out of the box. Like in our first season, we're like, oh, that was pretty good. That first opener was pretty good. And I kind of went into the work the next day being like, hope you guys like being in Hawaii because we might be here for a little bit. And then the season 2 premiere, because everyone who had seen it, then the word of mouth, and then we came out on DVD right before premiering. And then the season 2 premiere, I think might have been like our peak. And it was like, oh, that was great. We got our hooks in them for sure.
Was that when it was, or was it like, when did you realize like, wait, like life is going to change forever?
It's interesting. There is a lot of great things about the experience of doing Lost. One thing was doing it in Hawaii, away from everything. It kind of is this project where you just kind of convince yourself, this is just like this thing that me and my friends do in the woods. And it wasn't until you suddenly would go back to the mainland, like that first Golden Globes that I got to go to. And then you kind of like realize, the crowds and the excitement that people have when you just show up. And I was like, oh, this show is making an impression on people.
Do you have like a high just like from all the memories? Like, is there one thing that stands out of working with this cast or just the whole experience?
It's fun. Like when I feel kind of the best way to reminisce about the time on Lost is watching the blooper reels, because they're the closest to who we really were, the kind of people that you hung out with and we're sitting there. So, it's like if I catch an episode or someone's watching an episode and I kind of see that it's on or something, and I kind of watch that a little bit, but that's one thing. It's like, oh yeah, that's more like a thing I did then. But when you watch the blooper reels, it's like, that's who we were in a way. And just kind of that always kind of brings me back to a time and place more than anything.
Was there anything of like Hugo's or like that you storyline you loved, or a time where you're like, this is jumping the shark? I don't know if it was possible for Lost to jump the shark.
Well, I mean, I really loved the episode Dave. It was just a great, the story was great, you know, got to have like, you know, a a movie kiss on a cliff, you know, all that kind of stuff. That was a really kind of great experience. And it definitely was like this thing where you kind of realize that the ideas I had of the kind of jobs I'd get before Lost happened was just kind of like, you know, might be, you know, a wacky neighbor here and there, things like that. And that Lost kind of let me kind of like do so much and go through such an arc and stuff was just you know, it's something like kind of like being like these opportunities don't show up that often.
Right. And I think like to your point, like there was like a whole episode or the majority was in Korean. Like I think, you know, there's so much talk today about like diversity, inclusion, and just all sorts of things. Like I think Lost was ahead of its time in that sense.
Yeah, Lost was really the one of the best things about when they were casting Lost. One is it was late in the pilot season, and there was a lot of, they had a great attitude about gathering an ensemble and worrying about roles kind of later. Like they had certain roles written, certain scenes that people could audition with, but then once they found an actor they liked, they'd be like, okay, so who's this person in the show? Because like when I read for Lost, I was reading sides that were written for Sawyer, and you know, so it wasn't until I tested that they actually had written a few Hurley scenes for me. So it was kind of like that. And I think when they were just kind of building an ensemble, there's no one has to fit into any token group of a pre-written thing. Kind of just made everyone really well formed, I feel, and three-dimensional.
It's unbelievable. You like could have been our Sawyer.
I knew I wasn't up for the part of Sawyer. They just like they had like Boone sides, they had Sawyer sides, I think, and then like, we think you should read this sides, and then I kind of just read it, and then I chatted with them for a little bit, and then yeah, and then suddenly they're like, hey, they want you to come back and test, and they're gonna have new scenes for you.
And now coming out, you're in the new Munsters. What was that like? And do you have any scenes with Cassandra Peterson, Elvira?
Uh the Munsters was a dream come true. It was I got a text from Daniel Roebuck, a friend of mine, and he was like, hey, is it okay if I pass your information to Rob Zombie? Because he wants to talk about it, something, a project. And I was like, sure. And then we chatted, and basically he says like, so I'm making the Munsters for Universal, and it didn't matter anything else he was going to say after that, because I was on board the moment he said Munsters. I did not, and that's one of the things that bums me out the most, that as far as the production schedule, we passed each other as far as Cassandra Peterson, or Cassandra.
That just
Yeah, I was like, because yeah, I've, you know, I've been a big Elvira fan for a long time, and I would have loved to met her. And it's like, I don't know, maybe at the premiere.
I was just gonna say maybe at the premiere.